This is the second in our series of videos about creating a simple end-tier architecture in C#. So last time we created a simple database using the entity relationship diagram. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use our UML class diagrams to create some business rules, and the very start of our data access class, and we'll just do the load part of that data access class in order to show you exactly how that works. All right, so what we're going to start with, we're going to go over here to the project that we've created before, and we want to create an end-tier architecture. So we want both of our classes here to be in a separate project. In particular, a project that creates a DLL. So what we have to do, go up here and we say add, and we're going to say add new project. Be sure we say add new project. And we're going to say class library, and we're just going to call this user class library. And we're going to say OK. Notice that we now have our test project. Now we have a separate project down here called user class library. It creates with a default class 1. I normally just delete that default class 1 just to get rid of it, because we're going to create our own classes. And the two classes we're going to be creating are going to be the user class and user DB class. So I'm just going to go up here to project, say add class, and then this first one is going to be a user class. So I'm going to call it that user, and I'm going to add another class, and this is going to be user DB. Okay, so I've just created those two things. I haven't put anything in them right yet, but I will be putting them in pretty soon. Okay, so let's go back to the user class. And this is our business rule class, and the first thing that we need are backing fields. And let's look at our UML class diagram. Our UML class diagram has ID, email, name as far as the properties that we want to create. So we need backing fields for them. So ID is an integer, so we're going to need a backing field for that. Email is a string, so we're going to need a backing field for this. And we're going to use a name. I'm going to need a backing field for that. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is create properties. I'm going through this pretty quickly because we've already done these things in previous videos. So if you have any questions on what we're doing exactly here, go back to the previous videos and we'll see how to do this. We're going to concentrate on the end-tier architecture here, so we're not going to slow down a lot here. So anyway, the first thing we need is an integer called ID. Let's see, how do we call it? ID. And this property needs a get. And our get is just going to be very simple. We're just going to return underscore ID. And our set, again, is going to be very simple. We're just going to say underscore ID equals value. And that's all that we need. Okay. Very simple. Okay, the next thing we want is email. And this will be a little bit less simple, but still not all that bad. So this is going to be a string of email, and we need a get, and of course this is going to return our backing field, name, oops, no, email, sorry, okay, and then our set. Now our set is not going to be tremendously complicated, but we're going to put a little bit of validation in here just because it'd be a nice thing to have, don't you think? So we're going to check to be sure that the value that's coming in here is going to be at least 1 and no more than 50, because remember we set this up as an nvar field of length 50, and we required it in our database. So so if this is value.length, I'm sorry. Okay, and if that's true, we're going to set our backing field of email equal to value. Otherwise, we're going to throw a new exception. Throw new exception. Please enter email between 1 and 50. This is obviously not a complete email validation, and we can add the exact email validation later, but for right now, this will be sufficient for our purposes. Like I said, in time, we want to really make sure that it has the @ sign in it and it has the period in it. We can copy that validation from the internet. I'm not so concerned about that. That's not what we're illustrating right now. The next thing we need is a name property, and this is going to be very similar to this. So I'm just going to copy here and paste down here. And let's see, instead of email, of course, this is going to be name. And this is going to be name as well. And then please enter name between let's see, name length. So it's email length, name length. Okay. All right, and so that's our very simple UML, or that's our very simple class. However, we have one more thing that we want to create. We want to create this toString. Remember, toString is an override. So, and toString shows us how this is going to show up. So we're going to say override. We'll get the choices. We'll say toString, and probably what we want to do is we want to make this to be our email. So we want to return email when we're doing our toString property. Okay? All right. The next thing that we want to do is we want to set up our, so we'll go back to Solution Explorer. We've taken care of the business rule classes. The database classes obviously are going to be a little bit more complicated than this. I think that they'll probably be in our next video. So we'll talk about the database class in our next video.